This is our last week, our last video, driving through... Last vid. Driving through Alaska and the Yukon. And I think it's time to impart some wisdom that we have learnt over the past 2 months.
Ripened and wise, seasoned van lifers now.
Yes. And also, I think there's just a lot of stuff that we weren't expecting, we didn't know, and hopefully this will help other people who are doing the same thing. Here are 5 tips for van life in Alaska and the Yukon.
Here we go. Tip number 1, bring a sleep cover.
The sun will drive you absolutely crazy. I really wasn't expecting how much it affected our sleep.
The midnight sun will have you staying up till at least 2 in the morning, and you'll think it's 2 in the afternoon. Do yourselves a favor, bring a little sleepy so that you don't go cuckoo banana pants.
Because also in a van, you can't get perfect blackout conditions. Like the window covers let a little bit of light in, the fans bring a little bit of light in, and the amount of times that I used a sleep cover basically every day. Every day.
Yeah. Tip number 2.
Tip number 2 is that there is extreme weather. Like it will be burning hot one day, and then the next day, freezing cold. You go from these extreme temperature differences very quickly. It's probably a bit of climate change.
And the Yukon was, I think, a lot hotter than we expected. Like you said, I think due to climate change. In Alaska, I don't think people know how much it rains there, or maybe you do and you're extra prepared, but if you don't, you need a rain plan, especially if you're doing van life. We got super lucky with the weather, but if we hadn't, I think we actually would have gone a bit stir crazy being just stuck in the van the entire time. Like a gazebo or an awning, if you're one of those bougie people who can afford it.
Yeah, if you have one, that would have been clutch. And even in the Yukon, when it rained, it rained. It didn't rain very often, but it rained hard when it did. Like trees coming down kind of hard. It was intense. Extreme weather up there.
Today is our first day of heading home. So I think we're feeling a lot of feelings. We're not really sure what the best thing to do is. We have kind of one more plan that we'd like to make happen. We want to go through Valdez, which is like ish on the way back to Whitehorse. We're going back through Whitehorse through the Yukon. But we're really not sure if we should be fitting it in or if we should just be taking the, slow and steady route home. We're trying to figure out if we're doing too much.
Yeah, it still feels like we have a lot of driving, and even if we don't go to Valdez, we've got about 45-ish hours of driving to get back to Squamish, which is a lot.
And the wildfires are on our minds. We know that the situation can change at any moment.
Yeah, so but this is also our last chance to see, the Alaskan glaciers while we're up here, which have been really, really awesome, and not sure if we want to just take it nice and easy or get that last little bit of time up here doing things we won't be able to do when we're home.
We ended up making the decision to head to Valdez on our way back to Whitehorse. We just couldn't pass up the opportunity for one last glimpse at the coast and some Alaskan glaciers. It did not disappoint. There's nothing like a glacial lake with some construction and mining.
And tip number 3 is that you need to be prepared for how remote Alaska and the Yukon are.
100%. Before we left Whitehorse to go up the Dempster, we did a huge grocery stock up. Like, huge. I think we spent $400 on mostly canned foods, veggies that wouldn't spoil easily, a lot of canned foods, a lot of like dried foods, and we went through everything.
Yeah.
You have to plan ahead if you know you're going to need food, if you know you're going to need fuel, and if you know you're going to need water. You can find all of those things, of course, but it just requires extra planning.
You will drive like 2-3 hours in between, you know, towns that don't actually have a proper grocery store. They just have, you know, a convenience store, gas station, everything store. And those prices are definitely higher, and there's just less selection.
Tip number 4.
The road conditions in Alaska and the Yukon, honestly, I didn't think they were that bad. The frost heaves are definitely real. There are lots of them. You will feel like you are driving on a Mario Kart, you know,
Rainbow Road.
Rainbow
You're gonna
Road.
think that's where you are. There were sections of the road from the frost heaves that were just like completely like cracked open, or you would completely have to shift to one side of the road. The other thing is the road signage is not exactly clear. There would be signs saying that there would be a bump, and then the bump wouldn't be there, and it would be like 100 meters up the road.
And sometimes there will be, you know, a serious big bump, divot, you know, spot that you need to really slow down for, and there will just be like one tiny little pylon.
Like the smallest pylon you've ever seen, and it's like the most horrendous part of the road.
Yeah. What I wish I'd known is that if you want to have a smooth, nice drive, you need to drive slower and add time to, you know, your itinerary. Yeah, you're gonna stop a lot.
You're gonna look at a lot of things. You're gonna see a lot of animals.
There are a lot of things that we didn't know we were gonna stop at, or we stopped for animals that added extra time.
Tip number 5
is the bugs.
Bugs.
I think we knew going into visiting Alaska and the Yukon that there were going to be a lot of bugs. And that definitely was true. There were lots of mosquitoes, lots of black flies, the whole 9 yards. But it is patchy. Like,
yeah,
you'll stay at one campsite and get eaten alive. You can't even go out because it's a death sentence. And then you'll go to the next campsite and not a single bug. None.
Erik is immune to mosquitoes. This is something everyone needs to learn about him. So to say not a single bug, false advertisement.
There were genuinely sites where there was not a single bug. When we were on the Arctic Ocean, one day the wind was coming in, not a single mosquito. The next day, the wind wasn't coming in, and everyone in town had a mosquito net on. It changes quick.
At baseline, you're always at risk for getting bit by a mosquito.
Yeah.
Like, I think to say not a single one is false advertisement.
Not a single one.
No! If you're a fragile bug bite girly or boy, I'm just warning you, get a bug net.
Flies love the van. They would come into the van and it was this whole rigmarole to get them out of here.
What do you think you're doing?
Close it now. They left. They left.
All right, round 2 apparently.
Get out of there. Get out. They're all under here. Get out of there.
They're actually flying out.
What? Okay, close.
If I want to give like one from the heart.
Yeah, give one from the heart.
Yeah, I don't know. I think there's something so magical about the North, and I went into the trip with the intention of having a relationship with the Earth again, and I genuinely feel like I came out of that trip with that. Because of how absolutely breathtaking and vast the wilderness is out there. It is unlike anything I've ever experienced in that sense. Just in terms of the remoteness of it, that I think it changes you when you experience nature like that. I really do. So just, I would say if you're doing a trip like that, don't be scared to do the remote stuff.
Our final stop in the Yukon was the Signpost Forest in Watson Lake. We didn't bring our own sign, so we wrote one instead. Maybe we'll be there when we visit again one day. Hasta la fuego! Vlog, let's do it.
Bye-bye! Do you know what hasta la fuego means?
It means good night.
Actually?
I think so, maybe.